Okay, well, 65 million people tuned into the debate last night, and if you woke up and you said, "Okay, I wonder how the debate went," or if you were looking for some sort of confirmation of how you believe the debate went, if you went to mainstream media, this is the type of thing you were going to see. This is CNN. False claims made by Donald Trump is 33, and Kamala Harris only said one thing wrong all night long. Now, this obviously that's horrifically swayed. There's at least 24 things that Kamala Harris has said that were incorrect, and most of the things that they're claiming Donald Trump said that were incorrect are it's not the case. But either way, I think people knew it was going to be swayed going in. But I'm going to highlight some of the biggest issues that I believe were in this, and you can use this, by the way, with all of your friends and all of your colleagues when they say, "Oh no, Kamala Harris wiped the floor with him. I'm voting Kamala Harris because she has a plan and because she has, Donald Trump he was lying on stage and just lie, lie, lie." I'm going to give you an example of her deliberately misleading the viewership, misleading the American people, and there's several of them, and it's going to come with receipts because I've got video clips. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, and welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. And if you're a returning guest, thank you so much for being here. So, like I say, if you were watching the mainstream media, this is the narrative that you got. In point of fact, Kamala Harris, there's at least 25 things, and this was highlighted by the Federalist. It was 25 lies Kamala Harris told in her debate with Trump. But it covers everything from her upbringing to January 6th to Roe versus Wade to abortion in general. Several of the points she made about abortion were wrong. The border bill, fracking, Minnesota, her bailing out Minnesota rioters, find people on both sides, that hoax which has been debunked time and time again. January 6th, Trump saying there's going to be a bloodbath if he doesn't get reelected. All of these things that Kamala Harris has repeated. She's repeating Democrat Party talking points. And they are, in fact, lies. They are bold-faced lies and lies that have been debunked even from left-wing outlets like Snopes. But from the get-go, let's just go ahead and start this where it needs to be started. And that's from the very first question of the debate. Kamala Harris did not answer the question. The question was, how do you think that people are better off now than they were 4 years ago? It's a very tough question to answer when you are, the vice president of the United States and you have been second in command as we've been going through this horrifically difficult 3.5 years of the Joe Biden presidency. But she does not answer. And instead, she decides to deflect, and she deflects to Trump. And this is what she did effectively all night long. She does not answer the question. She has very, very smooth segues from the question into attacking Donald Trump, and then she puts Donald Trump on the defensive. So from a tactical standpoint in the debate, she actually, she didn't do it. Her her coaches, her debate coaches and those folks were very wise about this. And, there's a lot of people saying that she had an earpiece because she seemed a little too prepared for some of the questions. I wouldn't put it past them, but I'm not going to get into that conspiracy theory just yet. But listen to what she says about Donald Trump, the first falsehood.
Economists have said that cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Okay, first lie right off the bat. Trump has never, not once, said that he was going to impose a sales tax, much less a 20% sales tax on goods that we need to get throughout that we need to get through the week, or the things that we rely on a regular basis. He has never said that, not once. And yet she makes up the term, a Trump sales tax. The media will, for the next 2 months, continue to run with it. The Trump sales tax is going to do this. The Trump sales tax is going to do that. It's not a thing. It's a complete lie. It's a complete fabrication. Now she's trying to draw it, basically make another term for the tariffs. But keep in mind, and Trump highlighted this, they didn't get rid of the tariffs that Trump put in place. For 3.5 years, those tariffs have continued to exist because they were making a gargantuan sum of money off of China. Now, they're wastefully spending all that money, but nonetheless, the Biden-Harris campaign left them in place. So they bash him on one hand for tariffs, and on the other hand, they keep him in place. Why? Because most people don't even know that they exist. Most Americans don't know that those tariffs are still in place. So there you go. Deception number one. We were only a few minutes, literally a few minutes into the whole debate, and she's already lying, and that one doesn't get obviously get highlighted by the mainstream media. But the next piece is this is one, I think it kind of shows just how disconnected Kamala Harris is. Listen to this one here real quick.
We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people.
He's talking about inflation, and he's saying they were at 50, 60, 70% higher, and she's saying, no, that's not true. If you've been to the grocery store, yes, that is true. If you are buying eggs, ground beef, milk, all the staples out there, then there is no denying that is true. Let's keep listening.
Middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently.
All 100% true. But I think it shows how disconnected she is, that when he says that these things have increased in this, that's because she's not buying her own groceries. She's not going to the grocery store. She's not handling those things. She has her servants. She has her aides. She has her people that handle all that for her. She doesn't know the cost of bread. She doesn't know the cost of eggs, milk, cheese, any of the staples that people are living off of. Disconnected. Okay, now the next clip, this one was really wild. So Kamala Harris essentially blames Donald Trump for the pandemic. This was really wild. And then she goes on to claim that January 6th was the worst event since the Civil War, where 600,000 people died. Let's listen to this one here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Because we had to shut the country down for a pandemic.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
Which she, by the way, she just now blames Donald Trump for it. She goes on later in the debate to blame China, which is what we have been saying for years. And they have been telling us we're nuts. We've been getting censored on social media for it. Well, now you can't censor us for it, YouTube. Why? Because the presidential candidate on your side, on the Democrat side, says, which we will play the clip here in a minute, that it was China. She blames President Xi, for the pandemic. And yet here she's blaming Donald Trump. Deception? Yes.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Oh, my word. I hate when they go at that party line. It's really frustrating. January 6th, the place where one person was killed, by the way, despite all them saying, which Kamala Harris goes on in this same debate to say that there were hundreds of police officers injured and that many of them died. Now, yes, a couple of them died of natural causes days and weeks later after the event. But nonetheless, she compares this riot that happens at the Capitol to a civil war that went on for years that claimed the lives of 600,000 Americans. False equivalency? Yes, I believe that would be a false equivalency. And this is, by the way, that one riot on January 6th, this is the same woman who raised money to bail out people who were burning down Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, Baltimore, Chicago, and many other cities. And she basically funded an insurgency to keep an insurgency active that was going against local, state, and federal law enforcement. Deception? Yes. I would say that the $2 billion worth of damage done by the people she was bailing out of prison was significantly more dangerous and deadly than what was done on January 6th. Just a thought. Now, the Democrats continue to play this party line, and Kamala Harris is no different. This is the Project 2025 hoax, the lie, the whatever you want to call it.
You're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
Okay, I don't know how many times Donald Trump has come out in the past several months, and he does. This is the same thing with them. Say, oh, denounce white supremacy, and he denounces it. He denounces it. He denounces it, and they say that he refuses to denounce it, even though he denounced it 30 some odd times on every major news outlet, radio shows. Every time he was on for weeks, they say denounce it, all because of another hoax that we're going to get into. And I know I'm bouncing around here, but this Project 2025, they're using it the same way. They're using Project 2025 as a cudgel to beat him over the head, to try to beat him into submission and keep him denying things rather than talking about his actual policies. I personally think of what I've read of Project 2025, a lot of it is really good. You're talking about shrinking the federal government, adding transparency to the federal government, getting more conservative people as operatives inside of the federal government. That all in all is not a bad thing. But he and a lot of other Republicans are distancing themselves from it because it calls for the shrinking of the federal government, and a lot of people aren't ready to stomach that just yet. Although we better get ready to stomach it pretty quick. But she repeats this narrative and is not fact-checked. Not fact-checked a single time all night long. Now, I'm going to skip forward. I've got so many others. Well, let me go ahead and go to this clip. So this was absolutely a prepared statement on behalf of ABC in support of Kamala Harris to do their part in putting Trump on the defensive, as was the case all night long. Trump constantly on the defensive. Let's listen to this prepared statement by the moderators, which I'm going to use air quotes a lot today, I think. The moderators of this debate, and in support of Kamala Harris. Listen to this.
Your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
There you go. And this is true. Okay, keep in mind, the tariffs he put in place before, they'll badmouth them all day long. The left, the mainstream media will badmouth these tariffs all day long. Did you know, and this was brought up during the debate, those tariffs are still in place. The same ones from Trump. They were making so much stinking money off of them, off of China, that they left the tariffs in place. So they'll bash them on one hand, but they haven't done anything to remove them. They could easily remove them, but Joe Biden left them in place. The Harris-Biden administration left them in place. They're still there. So they're using them as a cudgel on one hand, but on the other hand, they're like, well, we can't get rid of them. Of course, they're a good thing, but the American people don't know that. The American people don't know that. Oh, it's really, really wild. And I think that this was one of my favorite clips of the night, because when it comes to policy, Kamala Harris doesn't necessarily have any policy of her own. And Donald Trump made that very clear. Let's listen to this clip.
And Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
This is absolutely true. This is a bigger deal than a lot of people might think. So this exposes how disingenuous the Democrat Party is. Basically, they see Trump's policies, this America First perspective, as a winning message. They've seen what it's done for Donald Trump. And so all they did was get Kamala Harris, just in her words anyways, to flip 180 degrees and start adopting some of the things that Donald Trump said. All night long, she was talking about America First, American pride, bringing people together, American products, drilling more oil. It sounded like a Trump ad all night long. That doesn't mean they're going to do that. That doesn't mean they're going to do that. This is the deception, right? She will sit here and say we need to do all of these things, but she has absolutely no intention of doing them. The Democrat Party has no intention of doing them. This is simply messaging, because the messaging is all that's important. They need 4 more years of the same thing to put a death nail in the American dream, to put the death nail in the American, in the heart of our country. So all they have to do is say what they need to say, and Trump's message is winning. Trump's message is popular, so they say, well, fine, we can repeat Trump's message. It doesn't matter. Once we get in, we're going to do the same old Marxist BS that we've been doing. It's wild. And the issue that is big, I did a video on this several months ago. I think it's been months. It might have been weeks. I don't know. But abortion is still a huge issue, so we're going to skip to that one. Trump mentioned the governor of West Virginia, which he later corrected himself. He was talking about the governor of Virginia. And let's listen to this clip here. But it was about how radical the Democrat Party is when it comes to abortion. And let's listen to this.
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates.
Okay, let's do a really quick fact check here, because they say this is false. They're already claiming, nope, never happened. It never happened. It never happened. Let's listen to, again, he corrected himself later and said, no, I was talking about the governor of Virginia. Let's listen to Ralph Northam on camera.
Boy, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was...
There you go. Post-birth abortion. Ralph Northam. Now, I would also remind people that Tim Walz is a wild radical on this as well. So here's Tim Walz. He removed, in his state, he removed the requirement to try to save babies that were born alive after abortions. This is absolutely nuts. And so Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is elevated in profile as Vice President Kamala Harris's Democrat running mate, has led to wider awareness of his staunch support for abortion in his state, including a bill he signed into law last year that removed a requirement to try to save the life of a baby born alive after an attempted abortion. A Minnesota law that has been on the books since 1976 required, quote, responsible medical personnel to use, quote, all reasonable measures consistent with good medical practices to preserve the life and health of the born alive infant. The legislation Walz signed in May 2023 got rid of the word preserve and replaced the previous wording with a revised requirement to care for the infant who is born alive. So this includes comfort care, which is the waters really get muddy. End of life care. All you have to do is provide some type of care, but it doesn't specify that you are supposed to save the life of that child. It says that this is the concern is that the law no longer requires that life-saving measures be taken. It only requires care. So the law, as it's now written, could allow a baby to be left to die, even a baby who could be saved with appropriate life-saving measures. Paul Stark, Communications Director for the Minnesota Citizens Concerned for Life, told the Register. Let's see. There is comfort care versus life-saving care. Right, here we go. So the bill Walz signed led to sharp debate last year in the state legislature, which is narrowly controlled by the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor DFL Party, which is the state affiliate of the National Democratic Party. They enacted a bill called the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which required that the State Department of Health produce a report every year stating the number of babies born alive after an attempted abortion and what happened to them. This was essentially done away with, is what happened. So all these babies that are being born alive, they no longer have to report that. So when they say that, no, it's not happening, you don't really know, because a lot of these states say that you don't have to report those things. And this is the case in California. This is the case in many other states. So we don't know. When they say it never happens, late-term abortions never happen. In a lot of cases, we just don't know. This is really, really radical stuff, but this is where the Democrat Party has moved. This is where Kamala Harris has moved. And they're as most deceptive, I would say, evil people do. This is very evil. Listen to this clip, this right here. This is Kamala Harris trying to sell evangelicals on the benefits of abortion and how, listen.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
If you are a Christian and you say, you know what, I don't have to give up my beliefs, I can still vote Democrat. When she says a woman's own body, you are completely discounting. She is completely discounting the life of that infant. 100%. Discounting the life of that infant. This is how radical these people are. This is how radical Kamala Harris is. Wow. So let me close this by giving you just a rundown. The rundown is, first off, and this is, I'm actually pulling this from the Federalist. They gave a really good list. First off, a middle-class kid. Kamala Harris was the daughter of two Ivy League professors. Well, I don't know if is Berkeley Ivy League. I don't know. Stanford and UC Berkeley. She talked about Trump tax cuts. Data provided by the IRS has shown that on average, all income brackets benefited substantially from the Republican tax cut or the Republican tax reform law, which was Trump's. The Trump sales tax, we've already covered that one. That's not a thing. January 6th, saying it was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Obviously, Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, World War II. There's other things that have been life-altering, nation-changing events other than a one-day riot at the Capitol, and we could include what I discussed before, which is the burning down of all these major cities by the people that she was bailing out of prison. Project 2025, we've already talked about that one. Roe versus Wade, Donald Trump does not take a hardline stance on Roe versus Wade like I would, like a person like myself. I think there should be a federal abortion ban. He does not. He stood by, throughout the debate, the fact that the decision had been pushed to the states. That now states can vote on this, and I would make the claim to the people who, like myself, this is how I don't say justify it, but my perspective on it is that we moved it in the right direction, but now states are able to, by moving it to the states, several states have voted to ban abortions, or at the very least, to earlier points, saying that you can't do it after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and as a result of that, hundreds of thousands of infant lives have been saved. We have to keep pushing to try to get this federally illegal, but nonetheless, he believes that rape, incest, and life of the mother are justifiable. So he doesn't support banning those things. He's been very open about it, and he reiterated that during the debate. They were saying, Kamala Harris made a claim that pro-life laws criminalize miscarriages and ectopic pregnancies. This has not been the case in any of the states that have outlawed or banned abortions. The life-saving laws designed to protect the innocent lives do not criminalize treatments for spontaneous loss or complications. In fact, every single pro-life policy on the books includes exceptions for abortion when it's deemed necessary to save the life of a pregnant woman. 9 months. They say that 9-month abortions don't exist. Data from CDC and prevention, however, shows that thousands of abortions are performed after 21 weeks of gestation. So that's getting into the late-term side of things. The CDC findings do not include reporting from at least 4 abortion-friendly states, California, Maryland, New Hampshire, and New Jersey, which suggests the number of late-term abortions in the U.S. is likely much higher than is reported. As I said before, these states don't have to report these things. The border bill, she pitched this border bill, which Democrats have been doing for a while, and they say that, he voted against the border bill. The problem is the bipartisan measure would have enshrined existing invasion into federal law. This is how it reads in the Federalist. But basically what it did was it increased the minimum thresholds for the number of people that could come in. So it would still say, by law, we can allow in millions of people across the border. And then she came in and said, it's 1,500. He voted to stop 1,500 additional agents. Those 1,500 additional agents had one purpose and one purpose alone. Not to stop the flow of people across the border, but to process more people across the border. This is why Republicans voted against it. The immunity ruling, this one has been debunked time and time again. But in fact, I might even play that one. Let me see if I can find that one.
And
Yeah,
let me
okay. I
say
think this is the clip.
that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job.
This was crap legislation is what this was. This was absolutely abysmal legislation. It did nothing but help them process more people, not stop people. It wasn't meant to stop people, because if the Democrat Party is voting for it, it is not to stop the people coming across the border. It was simply to process them. And so people probably heard that and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is crap that they would vote against this." But that is just not this is an absolute falsehood. An absolute falsehood. She led people to believe through her answer that this was going to stem the flow of fentanyl. It was going to slow down the flow of people. That's not the case. That's not the case. Now, this next clip, this one was rich. Oh, this was rich. This is where we have to be very careful. Listen to what she says here.
I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
Okay. Bush, Mitt Romney, John McCain, and of course she goes on to talk about Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. These are not Republicans. These people are not Republicans. They're rhinos through and through. These people, they would side with her 9 times out of 10 when it comes to policy before they would side with any actual Republican now, before the new wave of Republicans that we've got in office. These are people that are Halliburton military industrial complex Republicans, which makes them Democrats. They're masquerading as Republicans, and no one should buy that. Not a single person should buy that. Wow. And then I'm going to go to clip 23 here. Let me pull this one up real quick.
Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well,
Okay. And that type of fact check, by the way, is what I should have played at the beginning, but I didn't. This was constant. Like through when the where's the lady that was talking about the abortion? The female moderator, she came in and she said there is no state that has legal abortion after 9 months. And I just showed you the clips where they talked about instances and how they would handle those instances and how those things should be happening. And I just showed you the 4 states that don't have to report the late-term abortions that are taking place inside of America. This is lie after lie after lie. Now, the last one I'm going to play, and then I've got a million others, to be honest. I could sit here all day long and play clips, pull clips up. In fact, I've got 33 of them, and I've only played probably 10. But let's listen to one more here.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking.
Okay, in 2020. What did she say in 2020? Oh.
Lives in Western Pennsylvania, where fracked gas wells have become a common sight. Yet the toxic impacts of fracking on the community are immense, from contaminated groundwater to poisonous emissions. Yeah. Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Okay, there you go. Thank you for the clarification. from your own mouth. Oh. And y'all, I wish then I'm going to give you one more great one here. This is clip 25. Holy moly. This one was really wild. Really well. Listen to this.
Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with...
Okay. Let's take this one piece by piece.
Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
He has never said that. So if somebody out there who's still watching, if you can find me that soundbite, I don't know what I could give you. I ain't got any money. Prove me wrong. How about that? That does not exist. That is an absolute bold-faced lie. Termination of the Constitution he's been working tirelessly to try to preserve the Constitution. But this is the accuse them of what you are actually doing. This is the Democrat playbook. So they're accusing Donald Trump of, he's going to tear down the Constitution. The Democrats have been attacking the Constitution for the entirety of my life. And some big R Republicans have been doing the same.
That he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies.
Which is what we have seen happen to Donald Trump ever since he came down the escalator. This has been the weaponization of the Department of Justice, of the judicial system. The full weight of the U.S. federal government has come down on Donald Trump like a ton of bricks. And he has been fighting through that for years. And yet they say that this is what's at risk if he were to get elected.
Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand.
And of course, this is going back to the suckers and losers. That's her backhanded way of bringing in the suckers and losers comment, which has also been debunked. So I could sit here and play you. I could probably do hours and hours of videos of falsities from Kamala Harris, of her denying things that are in fact true, of the ABC folks stepping in and protecting protecting Kamala Harris, helping build the narrative that's attacking Donald Trump. This is the most lopsided debate I have ever seen in my life, and I've seen some doozies. I might find a way to post all the videos just side by side up on my channel or somewhere. Maybe I'll put those on continuefreedom.com so that y'all could take a look at them. But thank y'all so much for watching. I'll try to bring you some more, actually. I'll do another video on this one so that you all can see more and more and more of the lies that were pitched during this just absolute debacle of a debate. But again, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X Locals, Rumble, and YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.